Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Drizzle Show. So, I wanted a subject that everybody could kind of relate to, and I want to talk about musicians who are very well talented and who have had, but yet, let's say, like a rocky upbringing, but yet they've had like lots of success in their lives. First one I want to talk about is Madonna. Madonna came from a pretty, poor uh, religious family in Detroit, Michigan. I might be actually wrong on that. I'm not sure if it was Detroit. I think it was another city in Michigan. Um, but she was kind of in a situation where she kind of had to develop her talent basically on her own because her family wasn't really sponsoring that career choice. So she kind of chose basically to do everything on her own and look at all the success that she's had throughout her career, basically. Apologize about the camera. I gotta move it here. Okay. So yeah, there we go. Okay, lighting better. So yeah, that's the first person I want to talk about, and think about all the awards that she has achieved in her career, and she's still performing now. So I mean, look at what she's done in the music industry. Um, the second one I want to talk about is let's talk about Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson has had a wonderful, wonderful career up until he passed away. I mean, his earlier years with the Jackson Five, and he did come from a very poor family. His family was a situation where, you know, his father was incredibly abusive at a young age. He was basically taught to survive in an era when there wasn't too many places where African American performers could really go to perform. I mean, we're talking about an era where there was segregation, there was so much, animosity towards race and stuff. Um, but yet he still was able to achieve his dream, and that was to be a phenomenal entertainer and the king of pop. And I fully believe that. I think that people had really bad opinions about Michael Jackson, and I feel like you have to understand that um, Michael Jackson had numerous things wrong with him. Um, he had, psychological problems. He had a skin disorder. He was addicted to pain medications. Um, I mean, the guy had a lot of problems in his own personal life, and plus his failed marriage. Um, so I think that we should understand what Michael Jackson went through, and his children are doing very well for themselves right now. Um, they're very involved with charities, with getting their lives together, with you know other things that they should be involved in. Um, so I mean, I think we should cut Michael Jackson some slack, um, and understand that he was an incredibly well gifted performer, and I give him all the respect in the world for what he did. He gave me and every other fan in the world numerous performances that just blew our minds away. Um, the second one I want to talk about, who's kind of similar to that, um, is another performer that also had a lot of, criticism and things like that too, and that's David Bowie. David Bowie also had a lot of things happen in his own life. Um, I mean, he went through so many different changes throughout his career. Lots of horrible rumors were going out there around him. I don't believe a single one of them, frankly. Um, I mean, from all I've read about David Bowie, he was very, very nice to his fans and did everything that he could do to make them more comfortable in his performances. He also had a lot of work with charities, with children, towards the end of his life. It was just a huge shame for us to lose somebody like him. He was a freaking genius as far as I'm concerned. Um, and not to mention that he had to struggle, to get his first record contract. Um, he got turned down so many times it's not even funny. But look at what he created as time went on with his music. Not to mention his movie roles. So I mean, you have to incorporate that as well. Um, the next person I want to talk about is Prince. I mean, Prince was not only a phenomenal musician, the guy could play every single instrument, the guy could sing any type of music, the guy was an incredible dancer. Um, Not to mention his movie roles, frankly. I think from what I've seen, most of his movies are fairly decent. I liked them. Um, he was also another person who was very, you know, judged by his, dancing and music and subject matter and things like that. But I'll just remember Prince as somebody who was a phenomenal person in general. He had a good heart. He did a lot of stuff for people when he was not performing. He just loved everybody. And I think that people need to just kind of lay off of Prince and just respect what he did do when he was alive for everybody. Um, and then the other person I want to talk about is Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne, you know, had a lot of struggles in his life too. Um, you know, he came from a family where his mother was very religious, very abusive, um, and yeah, people might say, "Oh, Ozzy's a weird character. We can't understand him." But the reason why you can't understand him is because the guy has had so many life-threatening, almost deaths, basically from drugs, that we're surprised he's even still alive now. But yet, look at all the creative music that the guy did. I mean, look at Black Sabbath. Look at all the creation in that. Black Sabbath was a hugely popular rock band. I mean, look at all the hits that they had. Um, Look at his solo records. Look at how successful those were. Um, yes, he's had some controversy in his life, but who hasn't? I mean, we gotta realize that Ozzy is Ozzy, and you can't change Ozzy. I mean, he's almost in his 80s, so I mean, you can't really just say Ozzy changed because he's not gonna do it. Um, the other person I want to talk about is also another rocker, and who had also had a lot of success in his life, and you know that's Elvis Presley. I feel like Elvis Presley was another person who was extremely, you know, it was controversial when he came out because people didn't like how he danced and his music and but I have to admit, I mean, I'm not the biggest Elvis fan in the world, but I still respect the guy. I think that he did a lot for the music industry, and plus you have to understand that he also did movie roles as well. So I mean, the guy was extremely talented. Um, the other person I'm going to talk about, and he's the lead singer of one of the greatest bands of all time, and that's the Beatles, John Lennon. John Lennon also was a person who believed in free love, free speech, and standing up for what you believe in. And I think that, if you want my honest opinion, I mean, I feel like if he would have still been alive today, we wouldn't have a lot of the issues that we have right now because he would have been educating people about what it was like back in the 1960s. Um, that's why I still listen to Beatles music today because I feel like, those are phenomenal albums. I mean, you can't really go wrong with like the White Album or an Abbey Road. Um, so yeah, I mean, I just think that some of these people need to be more respected for what they did for the music industry. Um, I mean, all the people I just talked about had awesome careers and did lots of nice things for poor people and for people who didn't have anything. And it angers me when people talk bad about artists who earned what they got. Um, and yes, you might not like what they did in their personal lives or whatever, but still you have to respect them for what they did. Um, And the last person I'm gonna kind of talk about a little bit was Amy Winehouse. I mean, Amy Winehouse, yes, she had a a rocky relationship with her boyfriend slash fiance, but I mean, again, she was a phenomenally talented singer. She could play piano. She could play violin. I mean, this woman was awesome. I mean, she had so much talent. It wasn't even funny. Um, I mean, people were comparing her to like Whitney Houston's voice, except it was more like, jazz. But I mean, still, you have to consider all the horrible things that happened to her throughout her life. So, I mean, you have to respect Amy Winehouse. I think that she was a great, great talent. Um, the last person I'm going to talk about is, you know, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston, I feel like, was extremely misunderstood. I mean, she was singing from a very young age. I mean, this woman could belt it. She could shatter glass, for God's sakes. This woman was in movies. She was in commercials. She did lots of interviews. She did lots of charity work. She was in The Bodyguard. I mean, this woman could do it all. Um, and for people, I feel like, to make fun of her, um, it's sickening, because look at all the fun and entertaining things that she did for all of us. And I will always respect Whitney Houston. Um, I really, really love her songs. I think that she did lots of good things for people. So just please back off of Whitney. I mean, the woman is so, so damn talented. And I feel like the only person who ruined her career was Bobby Brown. If she wouldn't have been involved with him, I feel like she would have been alive today and we would have still been enjoying Whitney's music. So, those are just a few people I want to talk about who really influenced the music industry. So, yes.